Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. Looking forward to completing chapter 8 of the book of Matthew. Can't wait to tell you the story today. It is riveting. Anybody that thinks the Bible is boring just hasn't read it. Listen in today.
Welcome to Everyday Truth with Kurt Skelly. We believe the Bible is true and relevant to everyone, everywhere, every day. If today's conversation is a help to you, take a moment to leave a review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. Now, let's join Kurt for today's episode.
Hey friends, welcome back. Got my, not done this often recently, but I've got my coffee mug here today. It says, "Oh, happy day." And it is always a happy day when you're sipping coffee. I've been drinking coffee a little bit differently in recent days. I've kind of slid over to, and don't judge me for this, but I've kind of slid over to Starbucks. And I order the Americano and I get a little extra steamed heavy cream. I'm telling you, that is the ticket. And then at home in the morning, I make it on my Breville and got it's a fancy coffee maker, but I just put a double shot in make an Americano and I do the steamed heavy cream. I'm telling you, it is the way to go. So this is actually Keurig coffee, so it's not the greatest, but hey, a bad cup of coffee is better than no cup of coffee. That's a philosophy to live by. And speaking of philosophies to live by, we are in Matthew chapter number 8, and I think we're going to finish the chapter today and talk about one of my favorite stories in the Bible. It's interesting when you study the Bible, especially the Gospels, when you look at the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's different in many ways from the other three because John was written with a very specific purpose, and that was an apologetic purpose, that people would know that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and then an evangelistic purpose, that people would believe on him. That was John's stated purpose for writing the gospel the way he did. So the stories that are included, the miracles that are included, the conversations that are included all fit into that theme. And it's not to say that the other gospels don't have themes. They do. And we're looking at Jesus is the King in the book of Matthew. But often when Bible scholars study the gospels, they look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke together. And that's why they call those three gospels the synoptic gospels. Syn, S-Y-N, means together, and optic, you know what that means. That means to see. So we see them together. And when we look at events that took place in all three, in some cases in all four, like the feeding of the 5,000 is all four Gospels. But when you look at these events, sometimes you'll see different details in one event than you'll see in another event. And you say, well, does that mean that they contradict? And the answer, of course, is no. The Bible does not contradict itself. The better word is they complement, C-O-M-P-L-E, as in complete. They complement each other. So different views, different angles, looking at the same thing, put them all together and you have a comprehensive view. And I say that because as I've studied the Gospels over the years, I've studied them chronologically primarily. And when you study them chronologically, you're taking all the Gospels and putting them, collating them. So when we look at just Matthew, I think sometimes I'm adding some details perhaps that aren't in Matthew because I've studied the other Gospels as well. So that's where that's coming from. And I say that because this story in Matthew chapter 8 is one of those stories that in order to get a comprehensive view of the story, you really want to look at the other parallel passages, especially the one in Mark, Mark 5. Look at Mark, I'm on Mark. Look at Matthew chapter 8 and verse number 28. So we left the disciples in that ship. They had suffered the storm. They saw the great calm. Jesus had been sailing with them across to the other side, the east side of the Sea of Galilee, and now they've landed. Verse number 28. And when they were come to the other side unto the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils. So there's our first clue that there is more to this story than perhaps we understand just from Mark and Luke. And the fact is that this is the story of the maniac of Gadara. But what we learn initially here is that there were two. There were two of these demon-possessed men. And one of them gets the lion's share of the attention, but understand there were two. And the Bible says that two met him, possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass that way. So demon possession is real. These were possessed of devils. It made them wild. It made them untamable. It gave them strength that was inexplicable. It made them violent. It made them angry, made them evil, made them people that everyone wanted to avoid. Indeed, society had cast them out. They were living among the tombs, which obviously is an unclean place to live. And in that area of the Sea of Galilee, with the cliffs and the little inlets and valleys and wadis that come down, you can hear the echo. In fact, it's interesting how the wind blows. The wind carries the sound, and you can hear the screams and the echoes. This must have been haunting for all those that lived close, especially those in the town of Hippos, where I've been on numbers of occasions. It must have haunted them to hear these men and their screams. And the Bible says in verse number 29, and behold, they cried out, saying, as Jesus approaches, what have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? So a couple things here. First of all, the demons speaking through these men understood the identity of Jesus. Is that not interesting? That some that were closest to Jesus, like the people of Nazareth, did not know who he was. And yet there is no mistake in the demonic world about who Jesus was as the Son of God. They understood it, and they were afraid of it because they knew that the Son of God had the prerogative to all judgment. That's what they meant by, are you coming to judge us before our time? So there's a certain air of finality and expectation in the demonic world, understanding that they're on the losing side, their time is short, and they're doing everything they can to upend what they can before their time has come, their time of judgment. And it says in verse number 30, and there was a good way off from them and herd of many swine feeding. That's one of the reasons we know this is not a Jewish area, because pigs were unclean in Jewish culture. But there were some swine feeding. We know from the parallel passages, there were 2,000 swine feeding. That's a great herd of pigs. So the devils besought him, saying, if thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd or swine. So let us go into the pigs. Now, what a strange request that these demons are kind of bargaining with Jesus, asking for some mercy. So what's going on here? Is Jesus actually healing these men, but kind of being nice to the demons? Like, I don't want to send you to Hades now, but I'll send you into the swine. I mean, why ostensibly does it look as if Jesus is bargaining with the devil? Well, understand this. In popular Jewish conception, there were three portals to hell: the sea, the desert, and then Jerusalem, and most specifically Gehenna, the Valley of Hinnom in Jerusalem. These were portals to Hades. So who is with Jesus here in Matthew chapter 8? His disciples. Now, they could not see these demons. So if Jesus expelled these demons, they would just have to take his word for it. If Jesus expelled them to hell, the disciples would not see that. But what actually happens? Well, look at verse number 32. He said unto them, go. Okay, yeah, go into the swine. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine, and behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea. Remember, in Jewish conception, the sea was a portal to Hades, into the sea, and perished in the waters. So, again, this is my opinion, But I think what Jesus was doing here was providing a stunning visual representation of the fact that he was indeed sending these demons to hell, was indeed doing that. But this would have been such a stunning and memorable example to the disciples, because while they can't see demons, they can see crazy pigs. While they can't see demons, they can hear this conversation and know where these demons went and know what happened to those pigs and where they went. So I think what Jesus was doing here was for the benefit of the disciples. And we know that in that first miracle, the changing of water to wine, the Bible indicates that one of the reasons why Jesus did miracles was to manifest his glory to his disciples, that they might know definitively he is the Son of God, that they might know that he has power over the winds and waves, over demonic forces. And this would be a great illustration of that. Look at verse number 33. And they that kept the swine, fled and went their ways into the city, probably hippos, and told everything, what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And you would think to say, thank you. You would think to say, let's worship him. But watch what happens. And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coasts. Now, get away from here. You're a disruptor. We don't know what to do with you. This is something we can't explain. So in their confusion about the identity of Jesus, knowing that he had power, knowing what had happened, knowing that these pigs had died, they would rather just dismiss him. Just leave. We don't want to have to deal with this. And I think that's what happens even today when it comes to dealing with Jesus. I think sometimes people see the evidences of God and see the evidences of Christ working in the lives of people, and they can't explain it. They don't know what's happening, but they'd rather not deal with it. And that's a wrong response. Now, what's interesting is in Mark's gospel, we learn that Jesus told one of these former maniacs, to go tell them what Jesus had done. And that maniac obeyed that command. And he went throughout all of those cities, those Gentile cities of Decapolis, and told them what Jesus had done. And later, like months later, when Jesus came back one more time to this region for the feeding of the 4,000, the people did gather and they did want to hear him. And I think part of that is because this maniac had gone and told them, this is who I was. This is who I am. And the difference is Jesus. And when people can say, this is who I was, but this is who I am, and the difference is Jesus, that is a powerful message. And you have a powerful message today. You do. But it's only powerful if you tell people about it. So think about sharing your testimony sometime soon. That's it for today. We're at the end of chapter 8. We'll jump into chapter 9 next episode. Until then, hope you have a great day. God bless you, my friends.